Herzlich willkommen, meine Freunde, zu Hanovi Global Network, dem Besten für Verantwortlichkeit, Klarheit und Wahrheit. Wenn Ihr Kopf hart ist, lernen Sie am Ende auf die harte Tür. Yes, when your head is hard, you tend to learn the very hard way. Breaking news, Grenada has been slapped with restrictions on fish export to the United States effective January 12th. Welcome to Hanovi Global Network. We will explain. So for months upon months, I have been emphasizing and warning that socializing, fraternalizing with socialist Marxist dinosaur remnants from the early 80s was not the best course of action. But apparently, these bright, young, and intelligent people could not see the wisdom in what I was saying. Now, if this was a laughing matter, right now I would have been saying, look who's laughing now. But this is such a grave and serious matter, there is actually no mood and atmosphere to be laughing. So I would not be laughing. I would be even more serious than I was when I warned and emphasized that that was not the best course of action. Now we're seeing the consequences. We have seen the consequences. We all know by now that the finance minister has been slapped with visa restrictions to the United States. And now we see that the NOAA has slapped restrictions on imports from Grenada, fish imports from Grenada, effective January 12th of next year. Now, none of this is a coincidence. As you can see, and I will show you very soon, Grenada is one of the 12 top countries that actually has a complete ban on fishing imports. So what does that tell you? Is all of this just a coincidence? I went on right along and I reminded the guests and the hosts that none of this is by accident. And depending on how this matter is handled, that will determine if incremental measures would be taken in the future. I could not have spoken too soon because it seems incremental measures has already been taken. So some of you may say, oh, well, this is all a coincidence. No, this is because of paperwork. This is because of tariffs. And you may find all sorts of reason to justify those restrictions. But it is quite clear. Look at the people who are restricted from the Caribbean in the top 12. St. Lucia and Grenada. That is not an accident. St. Lucia has a center-left party in power. Grenada has a center-left party in power. So it's quite obviously someone may be sending a statement that the policies that are being pursued by these center-left parties are not aligned with their politics. So obviously, there seem to be consequences for that. Take a look at this press release by Political. Now I warn that in a world where everything is in the open and nothing can be hidden, it would be wise to be careful to tailor what is said and what is done in this global international political game where major powers are jostling for political and economic influence. It is practically unwise that Grenada, again, I would reiterate, that has a fragile economy, cannot project military nor economic power, should be extremely careful and strategic about what they do. Now, you can't have emotional, sensational people representing your foreign policy. You cannot have people who would go into parliament and blurt out statements about their personal feelings on international, global, and regional issues. That is not wise. One has to be tactful, diplomatic about what one says, or else you get smacked around and slapped with sanctions. That is just the way it works. And as a matter of fact, you're not doing yourself a justice. You're not doing the nation a justice. You're not doing your administration a justice. And you're not doing the leader of your administration a justice who entrusted you to make wise and smart decisions on behalf of the administration. You're actually, if you don't realize it, doing a grave injustice to the leader of your administration. It's not like you expect the leader to do everything. So when you're hired to do something and you're entrusted to do something, you should do it right. Now in this life, if one cares about efficiency, productivity, and getting things done right, one should always hire the best people for the job. Like you don't hire a guy who's taking care of chickens to become your guy in charge of health. It just doesn't make sense. You would think you'd want to hire a guy who has a little bit of experience in health. So when a lady comes along who's a karateka or some martial arts practicer and outsmarts that person in charge of health, it is not surprising. It's not surprising at all. When she says we're going to build a teaching, research, and tourism hospital and doesn't put a dime into it, but yet still she's a sponsor of the project, it's not a surprise. It's not a surprise that the guy in charge of health would go along with that. And when they will think that 250 million is going to get that done when it's more like 750 million, it's not a surprise. Not at all. When you have someone in charge of finance, goes along with this, looks at this, and doesn't say nothing, doesn't say, wait. This is going to cost pretty much 3/4 of our GDP. I mean, to invest 3/4 of your GDP in one single investment when the simple fundamentals of investment is diversification. It's the old adage, don't put all your eggs in one basket, because if the basket falls, all the eggs get squashed. So why would you want to take 3/4 of $1 billion or 3/4 of your GDP and pump it into one white elephant Polaris? Doesn't make sense. If that goes belly up, then guess what? Grenada would be belly up for a very long time. I mean, you could put this woman better to use to train the young men and women in Grenada on how to fight and do martial arts, how to defend their country and how to defend themselves. That'd be a better use to put this woman to. The same way, you don't hire a guy who's a grocer to be basically your biggest project manager for the government. It just doesn't make sense. But it seems that this current administration is pretty good at doing that, putting round pegs in square holes. So it is not a mystery when many of these construction projects go haywire. It is not a mystery when people are calling me from Grenada and saying to me that all they're seeing going up is a bunch of wooden houses that are unfinished. I'm not saying that. I'm not there. These are people who are on the ground that are saying that. It's not a mystery when you have a budget of over 40-something million and then you can get 200 homes built for 10 million and yet still you only got about 20 done or 20-something done. That is not a mystery. It's because you have a grocer doing construction management. It's not a mystery when you go to build a retaining wall and it turns and unravels into a total disaster. And kids have to trek through the mud like if they're climbing some mountain to get to school. And then you go and you hire experts to help you and you cannot see the difference that the experts are making. You would have think it's been over a month already? You would have think at least the experts could have created a passable path for kids to get to school. What sort of goddamn experts are those? I mean, are these experts in manje puppet? What sort of expert are we dealing with here? If they can create a simple, passable path for the kids to get to school, how the heck are they going to advise and finish off this project? For crying out loud, we're not building a bridge from St. Patrick's to Carriacou. I mean, it's not that complicated. Now let's get back to the fishing sanctions. It's quite obvious if you pursue reckless policies and you screw around, then the consequences are grave. But I have a strange feeling that the aim here is not to uplift Grenada or to uplift its people, but quite to the contrary, it might be to just use the machinations of government for self-aggrandizement and promotion. That is why we see people are running all over the place, scatterheaded, taking photo ops with every country in the world with no real benefit being accrued. You would think many are campaigning for some sort of modeling job or something. So, with the consequences we're seeing, the bottom line is this: wenn ihr Kopf hat ist, lernen Sie am Ende auf die harte Tür.